So I have a question for you, right? I have a question just for you. And if you get it right, then let me know in the comments and you will get a gift, right? And I'll let you know what the gift is when you comment. All right. So let me share my screen real quick. Cool. So there's five frogs. Five frogs are sitting on a log, right? You can see five frogs there. Four decide to jump off. How many are left? How many are left? So I'm gonna let you ponder on that for a moment. Yeah. Let me just have a little water. Mm. Whilst I let you ponder, you might as well subscribe in the process as well. Thank you. All right. Let's see. So have you got your answer? The answer is five. There's actually five frogs that are still on the log. And the reason why is because there's a difference between deciding and doing, right? There's a difference between deciding and doing. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this particular video. I'm going to keep it relatively short, but more or less straight to the point. But when it comes down to building a level of brand authority, and if you are not sure what brand authority is, it is your personal brand multiplied by your business brand multiplied by your campaign brand. That gives you a level of brand authority that makes you more visible and credible to your desired target audience in a way that you can attract them to get more leads, which in turn will get you more clients and ultimately more revenue for your business, right? So when it comes down to brand building and building that level of brand authority, you will then realize that when it comes down to this, a lot of it requires a lot more doing than deciding. And the thing with building a business and, building a life on your terms and doing things bigger than how it's been done before, you have to realize that a lot of the sort of opportunity comes more to the doing than the deciding. The deciding part is great because when you decide, you ultimately make a decision that you are going to move forward in this particular direction in order to get to your journey or your destination, right? However, the decision alone is not enough in order for you to build that level of brand authority, right? And I'm going to share my screen again and I'm going to show you a couple examples based on the idea of building a brand to showcase the difference between that of a decision to that of doing the actual action that it takes in order to build that level of brand authority, right? So let me share my screen. So as we know, yes, five, because there's a difference between deciding and doing. And with this list, this is what you need to bear in mind when it comes down to the elements. And you need to understand that just because you are deciding in some instances doesn't mean that you are actively doing the things that are actually going to shift the needle to get to where you need to get to at a faster rate. So for deciding, we have the choosing your niche, defining your values, right? Picking your audience, setting your tone and aesthetic, identifying what you stand for, planning your content pillars, choosing your platforms, right? And we all know that's important stuff. Those are important when it comes down to the foundational parts of building your brand, right? However, when you make that your sort of brand building exercise for months on end and you haven't done any of the actual action part of things, the doing of the doing. If you haven't been involved in that side of things, you're procrastinating in that sense. And that's fine. The whole point of it is to be someone that is honest about it. You got to admit it. Once you admit it, then you know that you can do better. Me, myself, I'm a recovering procrastinator, right? I used to procrastinate like for no reason. It was ridiculous. But when I realized what I wanted to do and where I wanted to get to, I realized it's in my best interest to really dig deep and do more doing than the actual decision making because I can spend a lot of time sitting around doing the actual decision stuff without the doing. And the reason why that occurs is because it provides that same level of dopamine in the brain. It makes you feel like you're doing something. It gives you that reward feeling when you're just planning and preparing and deciding, right? It makes you feel good. And with that sort of dopamine hit that you get as a result of feeling good, you then feel like you've done enough for the day, you've done enough for the week, or you've done enough for the month, for the year, right? But in actual fact, when you realize that there's a big difference between the decision and the doing, that is what it takes in terms of understanding there's a time for planning and preparation, and there's a time for action and implementation. You feel me? That needs to be clipped. If someone ain't clipping that, then I don't know what's going on. But those are the most important things that you need to consider when it comes down to building that level of brand authority. And within my phases brand authority system, within the phases framework, right? Sustainability is an important practice when it comes down to doing that, because you're able to then understand when it's the right time to incorporate both elements of you being able to decide, taking time to decide and make your decisions, and then making the time to do the actual action and implementation that's needed to take your brand to the next level, right? So then if I share my screen again, we have the doing, which entails posting consistently, showing up on camera like I'm doing now, having real conversations with real people, right? Iterating based on feedback. If there's feedback that you've been getting, I told you feedback is gold. Feedback is gold, because then once you get feedback, you can tweak it and refine it in a way that makes it make sense, right? Collaborating with others, strategic partnerships. How are you doing that? Building in public. That part is a hard thing to get over. Trust me, I've been there, but now I'm in the process of doing it. But that part, it took a while. It took a considerable amount of time to get in this headspace where I'm more comfortable to do it. But once you're doing it, then it's a lot more easier in the process. And then failing and recovering visibly. I've done a video talking about one of my campaigns flopping, and I spoke very candidly and honest about what I would have done differently and the process in hindsight. And as well as building in public, is me allowing to showcase the authenticity and the real journey of it. Like I said, none of the stuff I'm doing, I'm not here to portray myself as someone that it has everything and I've achieved everything in my life and I'm living a fantastic life, because it's not the case. I'm working towards that as my main destination, right? So there's not any room for me to be making up stories that just make me perceived to be in amazing light or in a good space, when in actual fact I'm working every day to get to that space, right? So it's in my best interest to be providing that level of honesty and authenticity within the work that I do. So that's what I mean when it comes down to the idea of deciding and doing. Do you want to be do you want to be these frogs sitting around deciding, saying, yeah, 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 I'll do it, I'll jump. But then you never do. Don't be like the frogs, right? Don't be like the frogs. You're better than the frogs. Incorporate in the way that you need to do it, build your level of brand authority, and focus on the doing. Focus on the implementation. Like I said, there's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place for preparation and planning, and there's another time and place for action and implementation, right? Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video tomorrow. Bless up, have a lovely evening, and I'll catch you tomorrow. See you later.